Before we begin, still your mind and open your spirit. You have entered the world of martial arts stories and history, where legends breathe and wisdom lives on. In this quiet space between breaths, we honor those who turned conflict into culture, strength into education, and struggle into self-mastery. If the way of the warrior inspires you, walk this path with us. Like the calm before the strike, pause for a moment and subscribe so that you never miss the next story that honors the spirit of discipline and peace. Now listen to the story of a man who transformed the fight itself into philosophy. The man who taught the world the meaning of the gentle way. Kano Jigoro. Japan, 1860. The air trembles with change. The old world of samurai and shogun is fading. Its swords sheathed, its castles dimmed by the glow of oil lamps and steam engines. The winds of the Meiji Restoration sweep through the nation, pulling Japan from centuries of isolation into the glare of modernity. And among these winds stands a small boy, frail, studious, often bullied, named Kano Jigoro. At school, he is teased for his size and his scholarly nature. Other boys strike and shove him, but he endures with quiet patience. Inside, however, a question takes root. Why must strength always rule over weakness? He wonders if there might be another kind of power, one that flows rather than resists, one that turns force into art. Years later, this question would reshape not only martial arts, but the entire philosophy of physical education in Japan. But for now, Kano is simply a curious young man, watching his country transform and feeling that somewhere in its ancient traditions lies a secret worth saving. As Kano enters Tokyo Imperial University, he dives into philosophy, literature, and politics, the pillars of modern Japan's new intellectual life. But his heart is drawn elsewhere, to the fading art of jujutsu, the combat system once used by samurai when their swords were lost. Most jujutsu schools are dying, their dojos empty, their masters old and forgotten. But Kano walks through Tokyo's backstreets, searching for them one by one. At last, he finds Fukuda Hachinosuke, a master of the Tenjin Shinryu school. Fukuda's dojo is humble, tatami mats worn thin, air heavy with candle smoke. Yet here, the young student discovers the essence of motion itself. Fukuda teaches that a small body can overcome a large one through timing, leverage, and calm awareness. Kano learns not to fight strength with strength, but to use it, redirect it, let it collapse under its own weight. When Fukuda passes away, Kano studies under Iso Masatomo, whose instruction focuses on the spirit within technique, the softness that conquers hardness. Iso tells him, the true master does not win over others, he wins over himself. Kano listens. He practices endlessly, and slowly he begins to see jujutsu not merely as combat, but as a mirror of life itself. In 1882, at only 22 years old, Kano lays out 12 tatami mats in a small Buddhist temple called Aishoji. Here, with a handful of students, he begins something new, something the world has never seen. He names it the Kodokan, the place to study the way. From the broken pieces of old jujutsu traditions, Kano builds a new art, one not of destruction, but of cultivation. He calls it Judo, the gentle way. Its foundation rests on two universal principles: Seiryoku Zenyo, maximum efficiency with minimum effort; Jita Kyoe, mutual welfare and benefit. For Kano, Judo is not just a way to defeat opponents, but a method to refine the self, body, mind, and spirit united. His students train not only in throwing and grappling, but in respect, humility, and self-control. Every bow, every breath, every fall is part of the lesson. In the soft slap of bodies meeting tatami, the temple becomes alive with rhythm, a sacred dialogue of motion and mindfulness. And so, in that small 12-mat room, the modern world's first organized martial art is born. But revolution breeds resistance. Traditional jujutsu masters sneer at Kano's new school. They call it soft, intellectual, unworthy of the battlefield. So in 1886, the Tokyo Metropolitan Police hold a grand challenge: Kodokan Judo versus the old jujutsu schools. The city gathers in anticipation, a contest between past and future. 15 matches will decide the outcome. Kano students, though smaller and fewer, step forward with calm resolve. The crowd gasps as one by one, the Kodokan throws their opponents to the mat, cleanly, decisively, efficiently. 13 victories, 1 draw, no defeats. When the final bow is given, the future of Japanese martial arts changes forever. Judo is no longer an experiment. It is the way forward, not just for combat, but for education, for discipline, for life. Kano's brilliance extends far beyond the dojo. He becomes principal of Tokyo Higher Normal School, where he shapes Japan's education system, teaching that physical training is moral training. To learn to fall and rise again, this, he believes, is the essence of growth. He becomes Japan's first member of the International Olympic Committee, representing not a sport, but a philosophy. Kano insists that judo should not merely build strong fighters, but strong citizens. His students call him sensei, not just for his skill, but for his wisdom. He encourages women to train long before gender equality is spoken of in Japan. And as he writes, the ultimate goal of judo is to perfect oneself and contribute to society. Through the Kodokan, his message spreads, not by conquest, but by teaching. Generals, poets, scientists, and diplomats all study under him. Each carries a fragment of his spirit into the world. In 1889, Kano travels to Europe. Wearing a Western suit, but carrying the heart of the East, he stands before rooms of professors, scientists, and military men. In London, he demonstrates how balance and timing can overcome brute force, throwing men twice his size with effortless grace. In Paris, he speaks of discipline, respect, and harmony, of how the spirit of judo could help civilizations, not just soldiers. The West, fascinated by Japan's rapid modernization, finds in Kano's teachings something deeper, a bridge between philosophy and physics, between ancient virtue and modern education. As newspapers praise his art of self-control, judo begins to take root abroad. By the early 1900s, dojos open in France, Britain, and later Brazil, where the Gracie family will one day transform it into Brazilian jiu-jitsu. But its heart, its spirit of compassion and efficiency, remains true to Kano's words. Judo is the way to the most effective use of physical and spiritual strength. In his later years, Kano teaches not only technique, but metaphor. Look to nature, he tells his students. The bamboo bends in the storm, yet it never breaks. The mountain stands firm, but welcomes the wind. He walks the gardens of Tokyo, reflecting on his journey. The bullied child who became an educator, the martial artist who became a philosopher. He reminds his disciples that victory over others is fleeting, but victory over oneself lasts a lifetime. Under cherry blossoms, he demonstrates soft throws with a smile, showing how yielding can be stronger than resistance, how gentleness, properly applied, becomes invincible. By the 1930s, judo is taught in schools across Japan. Children bow before training, learning not only to fight, but to respect. Judo becomes a national treasure, a philosophy in motion. In 1938, at 77, Kano boards the passenger ship Hikawa Maru bound for Cairo to attend an Olympic Committee meeting. Though frail, his eyes still gleam with purpose. He dreams of one day seeing judo recognized on the world stage. Each evening on deck, he watches the sun melt into the Pacific, writing in his notebook the words, "Judo for Humanity." He speaks with younger travelers about education, balance, and peace. He believes that the principles of judo, efficiency, cooperation, self-mastery, could help heal nations, not just train fighters. On the return voyage, the ocean is calm, the ship cuts through twilight. Kano quietly passes away in his sleep, leaving behind no wealth, no army, but a legacy that would outlast empires. When the news reaches Japan, flags lower in mourning. His students bow in silence and whisper, "Sensei, thank you for showing us the way." Today, from Tokyo to Rio, from Paris to Nairobi, judoka bow before each match in silent respect. In every fall, every rise, every bow, Kano Jigoro still teaches. He taught the world that strength is not domination, it is harmony. That the highest victory is not over others, but over self. So as this story fades, remember the rhythm of the gentle way. Yield, flow, rise. If these stories move your spirit, walk the path with us again. Return to the dojo and subscribe, so that the wisdom of the masters may continue to echo in every heart that listens.